My story begins in the little town of Sheldon. I was born there, and I won't tell you how long ago, but it was before the war. And my dad farmed 10 acres of strawberries, and I used to help before I went to school. As a youngster, picked about maybe a crate of strawberries. And it's hard to believe that in those days, during the Depression, we had 24 baskets in a crate, and we were getting 25 cents for the crate. Now, if you go to a supermarket today, I think you're going to find them for $1.50 a basket. So we're getting about penny a crate. And in 1935, my father purchased 12 acres of land with a 2-bedroom home, a barn, a well with a pump in it. This was all for $1,500. You have to remember that this comes from a perspective of an 11-year-old. When Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, we didn't have a radio then, but a neighbor man came over and told us that Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. And I remember that evening, Sunday evening, I was studying my geography lesson, and then we started hearing all kinds of rumors that the Japanese aliens were all going to be bombed. Of course, now, looking back, it was very foolish of a youngster to believe such rumors, because I know the American government would never allow such a thing as that. But in retrospect, when President Roosevelt signed Presidential Order, I believe it was 6009. Now, I may have missed a number or two. But anyway, that was the order to remove Japanese from the West Coast. And on May 25th, 1942, we were placed on a troop train, which was common during World War II. That's the kind of train that they transported soldiers from one base to another. But we arrived in Fresno Assembly Center on about 2:30 in the afternoon, December 25th, 1942. It's hard to describe, but coming out of the Depression years, and I have to say, it's too bad it takes a war to get a country out of poverty. But that's what World War II did for the economy of the United States. And when we went to Assembly Center, I never realized that the American government would serve such wonderful meal, because as a poor family, as we're all the neighbors and schoolmates and everyone, they had an abundance of food, and I was surprised. And each family was given a name tag, and I forgot what ours was, 8515 or something like that. And we were identified with those tags. And so we stayed in Fresno Assembly Center, which basically was a horse stable. And if you've ever lived in Fresno, it gets pretty hot there. And the floor of those barracks were made out of tar. And you sleep on those cots, and they would sink about 2 inches down into the floor. And then we had a mess hall, and then we had a community bathroom. So for 3.5 years, as far as privacy was concerned, we had to abandon all that and just live with our neighbors. There were 10 relocation centers, 2 in California, 1 in what we know as Lone Pine now. The other was up near Newell, on the border of California and Oregon border. And there was another one in Utah, Topaz, another in Wyoming, Heart Mountain, and one was in Colorado, Granada, 2 in Arkansas, Jerome. That's where we were sent from Fresno Assembly Center. I remember the date, October 15, 1942. And there was another camp in Rohwer, Arkansas, and that was Rohwer. There were 2, Jerome and Rohwer, and then there's 2 more in Arizona, Poston and Gila River. So that makes a total of 10, if I am counting right, 10 relocation center. Let me describe you just how those blocks, we call it blocks. In each blocks there were 6 barracks, and each barrack had 6, well, we used to call it apartment, but that's a misnomer. It really was an apartment. It was, I'd rather use the term compartment. And there were 6 in each barrack, and the 2 ends one were the largest. And then on the other side of the blocks were 6 more barracks, and in between the barracks there were the mess hall in the front, and behind the mess hall was the combination laundry room and a shower room. And I believe each relocation center had about 40 blocks, approximately 1 square miles, except for Tule Lake. That was the camp where all the, what we call repatriates, those who wanted to go back to Japan, were taken there, and this was in the summer of 1944. We had movies, we had our regular sports program, and of course we had schools. And I give credit to the white teachers that came. They must have done it sacrificing a lot of things, you know, the convenience of their hometown, coming voluntarily into the camps. It was completely a sort of a double culture experience for them, because they've never seen so many Japanese congregated. And approximately there were about, well, in Jerome where we were sent, there were about 10,000 Japanese Americans. So our last day in Rohwer, which was our last day in so-called relocation center, was October, I believe the date was 15th. And we came all the way back to California in the same troop train that took us to Arkansas. We came back, but we had no home to come back to, because that home that we left was a farm. And that was, you know, I should mention this. You know, the monthly wage, excuse me, the monthly wage for workers in camp was $16 a month. And the professionals, such as doctors and teachers and lawyers, if there were lawyers there. I know of one lawyer that went to camp. The professionals were paid $19 a month. So you can understand that many of the banks foreclosed on their mortgage, and that's what happened to our farm. It was foreclosed. So we had no place to come back to. After the war, we rented a small, well, I call it a shack, and it was only about 500 square feet, no running water, The bathroom was outside, and so that's where we were for 3.5 years. And in 1949, we started growing strawberries, and that's why to this day I can't eat fresh strawberries. Because I used to pick strawberries off the vine, and to quench my thirst, I used to eat those strawberries. And so to this day, if I eat strawberries, I have to mash them, put some cream and sugar on them, and that's how I eat strawberries now. You know, we have some corrupt politicians, but I still believe that the American government is the best. And incidentally, I'm the oldest of 7 boys. All of us served in the Army. One even was sent to Vietnam, one of the younger brothers, and he fought against Ho Chi Minh and his communist troops there. And he almost lost his life twice. But I don't know if you noticed, but too many of soldiers who were sent to Vietnam, they don't say anything about that. Because in essence, I think we lost that war against the communists. Seoul, fell to the communists, the Chinese communists. And my brother, who was sent to Vietnam and into the combat zone, he doesn't talk about Vietnam. And I think the majority of Americans towards the end of the war felt that it was an unpopular war. And I remember as a high school, I guess it was in college days, that I think President Johnson, after Nixon, his excuse was there was some communist boat in a bay off the Sea of Japan. And that was his excuse of going to war against communist China. And, well, I think my mother, if she were alive, would be proud to know that she sent 7 boys to serve their country. And I just want to end with a positive note, my little speech here.